What were they thinking? That does it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. Banfield starts.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the program. It's the Tuesday after Memorial Day weekend. I hope you had a chance to think back to all those people who died for you so that you could have that weekend. And if you didn't, you still have time. In the meantime, I have this program all set to go for you, fully rested. And wow, we did not expect to hear this story over the weekend. The General Hospital star, Johnny Wacker, gunned down, doing nothing. No, let me rephrase that. Doing something heroic. Trying to shield his co-worker from being gunned down by 3 thugs who were stealing his catalytic converter. 3 guys. They shot him and they took off. Johnny Wacker didn't even try to stop them. He didn't even confront them. He was just escorting his colleague to her car so that she'd be safe. Tonight there's a manhunt. And I sure as hell hope they catch them. 3 people, losers in life, who steal. That's all they do. They steal for a living. And when that doesn't go well, they kill in order to steal. Tonight, his ex-fiancée made an impassioned plea that went viral about what is at stake, how to clean up the streets and stop this madness of killing the innocent like Johnny Wacker. She's going to join me live on the program. Don't go anywhere. And then also, if the video wasn't enough to make you sick, well, the trial may have been. The father, who was seen on the video in his own apartment gym, repeatedly putting his 6-year-old boy on a treadmill and turning up the speed well past a pace that the child could manage, watching as the kid fell over and over and over, hurting himself, falling on his face. Dad apparently thinking his 6-year-old was too fat. Newsflash, that wouldn't matter. And newsflash, he wasn't. Days later, the child would be dead. And that man is on trial for his murder. But he had an expert who said, oh, no, the child didn't die from these injuries, the expert said. The expert looked a jury straight in the eyes and instead said, the child died from sudden unexplained death syndrome. There's a new one. And there's a sucker born every day, but will there be one born in that courtroom? I'll tell you one thing. Mr. Tough Guy, who thought he'd be tough on a 6-year-old on that treadmill, not tough enough to take the stand, not tough enough to defend himself. Nope, chose not to at the very last minute. So what's the jury going to make of the battle of the experts? That's coming up in a moment. And then also there's this. I got a puzzle for you. How does a police officer end up locked in the back of his own cruiser with a pretty girl that he arrested? How does that happen? Well, thank God there's body cam. And when the body cam gets turned off, thank God there's the black light test. Yeah, I'm going to leave you with that puzzle for a hot minute. In the meantime, I'm going to get going on this program because it's been almost 4 days since up-and-coming TV star Johnny Wacker was gunned down on the streets of Los Angeles, and his killers are still on the run, out there somewhere among us tonight. The actor best known for playing Brando Corbin in almost 200 episodes of General Hospital. He was shot dead early Saturday morning after getting off a shift as a bartender. His family says Johnny was walking a co-worker to her car when they came upon 3 men trying to steal the catalytic converter off Johnny's car. If you don't know what that is, it's part of the exhaust system, and it is very expensive because it's made of precious metals, including platinum. And if you haven't had yours stolen, you're lucky. And here's why the crime against Johnny is so infuriating. He didn't even try to stop the thieves. He didn't intervene. He didn't fight with them. They could have just gone ahead and finished their business and left, gotten away. But instead, one of them decided to pull a gun, pull a trigger, just opened fire on Johnny Wacker. Johnny's family says he was hit while shielding his friend and that he was pronounced dead a short time later at a local hospital. He was just 37 years old. Tonight, the manhunt is active for those 3 suspects, but so too are active tributes, public and private, to Johnny, and one that has gone viral from his former fiancée, Tessa Farrell.
It's not okay. This can't keep happening. So many lives are being lost, and we have to be smarter as a community. And guys, even if you're watching this, we have to stop being so mean to each other. Let's love each other. Let's not steal.
And Tessa Farrell is kind enough to join me now live. Tessa, may I just send you my heartfelt condolences on what you are going through and so many of his friends and family. And thank you for being here in his honor tonight. Have you heard anything more about the investigation tonight?
It's been a really difficult day, and I was able to reconnect with a family, and it's really hard because they just need a moment of privacy right now. It's hard for me to talk because I said I would talk on the show before I spoke with them, but they want more silence right now while they grieve. Sorry, it's really... We're also asking, though, that the coverage kind of slide away from our past relationship. There's been a lot of articles kind of focusing more on his past than the investigation, and the police are taking it very seriously. They're actively looking for these killers right now, and if anyone has information, please submit it to the LAPD. I can't really share any more information right now because the family wants me to kind of let everything evolve as it does with the police.
Understandable. This is such a difficult time for all of you. And again, I am so sorry for what you're going through. I certainly hope that at least the coverage will help to keep the story out there and that people will keep their eyes peeled for these three. In the meantime, as the family has put it, it looked like he was shielding his coworker when he took a bullet, trying to get her to her car safely. Does that sound very much like the Johnny Wacker that you knew?
Yes, the only thing I will say, because I want to respect his family and remain quiet, but I will say that he was a very kind, humble, giving man, and that is exactly in his character, and I will forever remember him as a rising star, and this death will be brought to justice. We will find these killers.
You know, you also made such a plea about cleaning up the streets, doing something about this kind of wanton violence. The innocent, like Johnny, just... He didn't even confront them, and he was shot. Tell me more about your thoughts. You're living there. You're in the middle of it. Let me hear more of what your thoughts about the city you're in.
It's a very dangerous city. It's been a problem for years, and it's getting worse. I would be happy to speak to it more, but out of respect for his mother. She asked me to not speak today about any more details on it, but everyone knows that there's rising crime rates in the city, and it's been a problem, and it's going to continue to be a problem if we don't do something, and hopefully this can spark some real change to improve the city.
Understandable. I think the family has started a GoFundMe for Johnny.
Yes, his godmother, Michelle, started one, yes.
And do you know the address off heart? I mean, don't worry if you don't. We can certainly put it up after the segment.
No, I didn't memorize the link, no.
I think I'm looking here, Justice for Johnny's support. Is there anything that you'd like us all to know about Johnny Wacker and the man that you knew?
It's really hard because his family's in a lot of pain right now, and they express that they don't want a lot of, his past to be involved, and people have been kind of digging into our relationship. So it's hard for me to talk because I want to honor his mother, because I want to do what Johnny would do in this situation, and it would be to take care of his mother and his brothers, and I just need to remain silent for them because I love them, and they've asked kind of for a moment of silence right now.
I understand. I just wondered if you wanted to say anything about the great man that you knew, the positive times that you had, and the person that you hope people remember.
Well, yes, he was an incredible human being, very inspiring and hardworking. As people learn more about his life, they'll see that he was always standing up for what's right and being really dedicated to his community and his friends and his family. He's a light to this world, and this is a huge, huge loss to to humanity and to the world of acting. He was such a great actor, and we got to learn how to act together and help each other audition for many years. It was really fun. But yeah, he was such a light in this world. I think through everything we can remember to stand up for what's right and be joined as a community, because this can't keep happening. We have to come together out of strength and come through this stronger. Crimes can't keep happening like this. It's very tragic.
Tessa, if those who are responsible for this are watching right now, what's your message for the people who did this?
I hope that we hold them up to the highest degree for what they did. They need to be held responsible, because no matter what you're going through in life, crime is never okay.
Tessa, I'm so sorry for your loss and for the loss of, your former fiance's family as well, for what all of you are going through. Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing the positivity of it's just very hard to go through this, and it looks like Johnny Wacker was a really great guy, so I appreciate you bringing him to life.
Thank you.
I want to bring in John Muffler now. He is a former U.S. Marshal, and he's a principal of Equitas Global Security. John, there is a manhunt now for three of these people. Can you, in your best estimation of your business, tell us what you think is happening right now in that city?
Thanks for having me back on. So they have an eyewitness. They'll have physical description of those who are trying to steal the catalytic converter and the murderer. So they have a good eyewitness. They'll have height, weight, physical description, and never underestimate the digital footprint that investigators are looking at right now, and that is going to include cell phone usage prior to and after the event. There's business cameras, there's street cameras, and so there's abilities to pick up the vehicle they used to commit the crime, to get there and leave the scene. So there's possibilities within the digital footprint that, well, I would imagine they're looking at that. So another way to look at this, too, is depending on the type of vehicle they use to escape the scene, if that's a newer vehicle, we've had this conversation before, there are devices within those newer vehicles, computers, that are pinging, and there'd be able to be a read on that. So I think there's a really great opportunity here to catch these individuals. This is a huge issue in LA, in California specifically, and nationally. And so these networks, they communicate. There's great informants out there that the FBI has, LAPD has. So I would imagine the information that law enforcement is gaining is through all of that, which I just mentioned.
Cameras everywhere. They catch an entire trail, of retreat. I keep coming back to the $1,000 catalytic converter and how often this kind of a crime is happening. This man, Johnny Wacker, lost his life over a stupid piece of car engine. But at the same time, he wasn't even fighting back, John. Like he couldn't have done anything better. He was protecting his colleague. At this point, I don't even know what to say in terms of the advice for people who might even confront someone who's got their car jacked up and is taking a converter.
Yeah, nothing of like that is worth losing your life for, obviously, right? That's the understatement of the day. But certainly, when you look at what types of vehicles are being stolen for that car piece, that catalytic converter, I think if he had a Prius, I think it's number 4. I think an F-150 is number 1. So, if you're driving those kind of vehicles, you really kind of have to raise your awareness, where you're parking, what time you're getting to that vehicle. In LA too, everybody's street parking. So, it really raises the risk level tremendously if you're driving one of those types of vehicles and parking in locations that might be, not safe. So, take it upon yourself, obviously, if you're driving one of those target vehicles, to understand what the risk may be to that.
Yeah. Let me ask you something. As a U.S. Marshal, you have chased a lot of guys and you've caught a lot of bad guys. There are 3 that they are hunting down tonight. Like, it is an all-out manhunt for these three. And my assumption is that all three will be considered murderers because they were in commission of a felony and someone died. It's the classic definition of felony murder. But as a marshal, what's the strategy if you catch one? Like, what happens when you catch that first one? How do you do a squeeze to catch the others?
Yeah, well, the first person to talk is going to get a better deal, right? And so, presumably. And so that person, if you're catching one, you're likely to catch the others. There's no honor amongst thieves. And so that's the objective. Catch one, to catch the other two. And you'll probably catch a bigger network than those three. I'm sure it's much bigger than three dudes trying to steal a piece of equipment from a car. So, and we're saying that time and again nationally, there are syndicates out there that are making hundreds of millions of dollars on this type of car theft. So you get one, you'll get the others for sure. And that person might get a little better deal, but that's the objective.
You know, Johnny Wacker, as I said before, and I'll say it again, he wasn't even trying to be a hero. He wasn't confronting these thugs. He just was protecting the person he was trying to get safely to her car. And yet this guy pulls out a weapon and fires at him and kills him. Are criminals who are maybe a part of a syndicate, maybe they're just street thugs, are they becoming more violent? Is this a one-off? Are you seeing any trends like this?
No, I think it's definitely, I don't think it's a one-off at all. I think this is definitely a national trend, especially in the bigger cities, and they're more emboldened to do things, confront, law enforcement and getting shootouts. This is a cold-blooded murder. There was no, we're not hearing anything about Johnny Wacker other than he, just asked, "What are you doing?" And he was shot in cold blood. So I think the stakes are very high in many places in the United States. And I think, these types of individuals who are going to commit a crime like this don't really care what the rules are. And I think the danger is much, much higher than it was, years ago, obviously.
Well, I hope to hell that they catch these three and that they squeeze the daylights out of them to get not only the others involved, but also, like you said, if there's a bigger syndicate. John Muffler, thank you. Appreciate it. We'll keep an eye on this.
Thank you. Take care.
Also, I should tell you, if anyone has information, you're asked to please call Detective Gonzalez or Detective Martinez at 213-996-4142. Just take a picture of the screen right now. Grab a shot of it. You got the number for Crime Stoppers there too, 1-800-222-8477. Call and let's catch these guys. Still to come, a courtroom surprise from the lowlife who was seen on that stomach-turning video torturing his little boy on a treadmill. He was expected to take the stand today at his murder trial, but he backed out at the last second, which is probably just as well for him, considering what he was heard saying to a cop at a traffic stop just days after his son died. You'll hear it too in just a moment.
And Alexa.
This Quest for Gold Athlete Spotlight from NewsNation on the Go features U.S. Women's National Team soccer star Crystal Dunn. The New York native has played internationally since 2013, including on the 2019 World Cup winning team. But Olympic gold has eluded her throughout her career. Expectations are always high for this team, but they didn't even make the podium in 2016 and finished with just bronze in Tokyo in 2021.
There's always pressure. I've been on the national team for 12, 13 years now. I don't remember one day that I didn't feel pressure representing this team, and that's when we were winning, and that's when we didn't walk away with, a gold medal. I think the pressure is always going to be there. That comes with you just being, on an excellent team that demands excellence.
The 2024 Olympic team has a new coach at the helm. Emma Hayes takes over just weeks before the games. Dunn says the team is ready for that last piece of the puzzle headed into Paris.
I wouldn't say it's anxiety that we're feeling. I think it's more so just we're ready. We're ready to have that FaceTime with her.
And Dunn's anxious to get to Paris to try out her French.
My son speaks French, and I don't really know what he's saying all the time, so I'm now, at a disadvantage. But yeah, no, I have a French connection now. It's been really great. My French is coming along, so maybe I can help some people order some coffees, and don't ask me to do anything past that.
She's been practicing with her French-born husband. I'm Ryan Bro for NewsNation on the Go. You can hear full athlete interviews and updates on the Summer Games by searching Quest for Gold on most podcast platforms.
You're listening to Banfield on NewsNation. To find NewsNation on your screen, go to joinnn.com.
This is The Making of America from the Jefferson Media Group. Benjamin Franklin once declared, "Without freedom of thought, there can be no wisdom, and no liberty without freedom of speech." Following his words, or maybe because of them, on December 15th, 1791, when our country was a mere teenage nation of 15 years, Congress, as part of our Bill of Rights, passed the First Amendment protecting the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, and freedom to assemble and petition. In their own words, they did so because they believed that freedom to think as you will and speak as you think are means indispensable to the discovery and spreading of political truth. This has been The Making of America. I'm Michael Emerson, and you can visit us at jeffersonmediagroup.com.
Inflation may still be driving up prices, but select brands are cutting prices where they can. The latest is Burger King, which has told a number of business publications that it will launch its own $5 meal to counter its rival McDonald's. The meal will offer a choice of 3 sandwiches. The U.S. Justice Department and 30 states are suing Live Nation and Ticketmaster, claiming they hold monopoly power on the sale of concert and live event tickets. The suit charges the companies with abusing their dominance to overcharge fans, bully venues, and limit artists. Ozempic and other weight loss drugs have become trendy among young people. Now, Nestle and some other food manufacturers are getting in on the trend. They're producing cookies and other food products to appeal to consumers who are trying to lose weight by using the weight loss drugs. I'm Mark Huffman. Learn more at consumeraffairs.com.
That brave alleged child killer, he changed his mind. Take a look.
The decision whether you elect your right to remain silent or elect your right to testify is your decision. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
And have you reached a decision, Mr. Gregor?
I have.
And at this time, can you tell me what that is?
I will not testify, Your Honor.
Nope, not going to do it. Christopher Gregor could be put away for life if he's found guilty of murdering his 6-year-old boy. You most likely remember seeing the video of little Corey Michelot on the treadmill in the gym at his dad's apartment complex. His dad is forcing him to run faster and faster, even though he is repeatedly thrown off the treadmill. This was just days before the boy died, back in 2021. A state pathologist found that Corey died of blunt force trauma and lacerations to his heart and his liver. And now we've learned that just 2 days after dropping Corey off at that hospital and leaving him to die among strangers, Christopher Gregor took a drive. Curious, very curious, 20-hour drive all the way from New Jersey to Arkansas, where he promptly turned around and headed right back again. While he was in Tennessee, though, he was pulled over for speeding. And weirdly, his young son's death came up in conversation with the officer, as did the child's grieving mother. Take a listen.
He didn't have any bruising on him, and I knew when he got home, I knew something was wrong in my gut, but I just thought she had him away from everything that he needs. And I should have took him where he needs to go. There's a lot of these things, so it's partially my fault in the sense that if they truly did something, it would, like, you had a shoot right for the drug addict mother, but he'd still be alive if I never came back from Baltimore to fight for justice. And that's been going through my head this whole drive. She's a special kind of dirtbag.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that last little bit there? She's a special kind of dirtbag. That's what he's calling the mother. The same mother who reported over 100 times to Child Services about the abuse she suspected at the hands of that child's father. The father, the guy saying, she's a special kind of dirtbag. Let's bring in Mark Gregor here. He's a defense attorney and co-host of the Reasonable Doubt podcast with Adam Carolla. You know, I've done this job for a long time, as have you, and it amazes me how affected I am when I see someone like this and I see video like this. And Mark Gregor, all I can think of is that I am not unique. I cannot imagine what those jurors are thinking right now.
Well, I think one of the reasons, I've often told you, Ashleigh, my father used to say it's a rare case that gets better for the defense after the prosecution rests, which is a long-winded way of saying you rarely want to put your client on the stand. This, however, may be a case where you would want to show the humanity here, because it's any way you cut it. You take a look at that video and look at it in retrospect, which is what jurors do, and it just looks heartless. And I grew up in a time when coaches would be heartless, or they would run you till you threw up, or they would, kind of abuse you, so to speak. And corporal punishment was still a thing when I was a youth. But in today's day and age, this is just, like I said, heartbreaking. And to some degree, you might want to, if you're a juror, even though you're going to get an instruction that says you can make no judgment, you can't even consider the fact that he doesn't testify, this may be the exception to that general rule.
Yeah, I kept thinking, good idea, fella, because they're going to want to tear you limb from limb on the stand, and you certainly can't fix this. But I don't think you're right. I think it couldn't get any worse than it already is. And then you add the dirtbag comment. There he is in a speeding violation, telling a police officer that the mother of this little child who tried over 100 times to save that child from that man, that she's a special kind of dirtbag. You can't unhear that stuff, Mark. You just can't.
I agree. I have not followed closely enough to know whether this was a theme or how did the defense preempt this. Is there third-party evidence? And when I say third-party evidence, something other than coming through his mouth that would have said that she had done something to deserve being called this at the time. Because once again, in retrospect, it's a very heavy thing to look at and to ask a juror to look at and not want to lash out. And when a juror lashes out, remember, jury trials are nothing more than the jurors wanting to do right and do justice.
Yeah. The judge decided that the jury would not be allowed. You and I have seen that video. The rest of the world gets to see that video. And I dare say not every juror follows the judge's instructions and doesn't watch TV and doesn't see their social feed and doesn't see a newspaper headline as they walk by the box on the street. But, God help that man if a juror does see that video where he's calling the mother of that dead child a dirtbag. Do you think it was right for the judge to keep that video out, considering it's so proximate to the death and it's all part of the leaving the hospital, leaving the child to die with strangers, jumping in the car, driving 20 hours, turning around, driving back? Do you think it was right for the judge to keep the jurors from seeing that?
Right. The judge does a balancing and says, is it more prejudicial than probative? Meaning, is this going to prove something, one of the elements for the prosecution? And I think it's just so highly prejudicial that the judge probably figured, look, the prosecution's got enough. I mean, at worst, a manslaughter, that why risk reversible error by admitting it? So I understand it. I don't second guess it.
Little Corey Michelot's face is pictures of him just flashing, and he's just such a cute little boy. He got a goalie set. I got a son who's a goalie. I want to talk to you about Dr. Michael Baden. You and I have done a lot of cases Dr. Bodden has a very, very long career as a forensic pathologist. He was highly respected for a very long time. Today, I have to say, I don't know what the hell he was talking about, because he got on the stand and said, oh, it's possible he died from sudden unexplained death in children syndrome. Sudden unexplained death in children syndrome. Come on, Mark Garagos. Would you, as a defense attorney, have put that bullshit on the stand?
Well, Dr. Bodden, in my opinion, is probably, well, now, Cyril Wecht just passed away, and I would have said next to Cyril, Dr. Bodden was one of the 2 or 3 best. Werner is probably the third, and Dr. Posey, probably the 4 best pathologists around of our generation. So you got Dr. Bodden up there. He has historically been on the cutting edge. So I don't know that I wouldn't have put him up there, because part of what you have to remember here, Ashleigh, is you have to, if you're the defense, you've got to zealously represent your client. If you can get past the judge and put on expert testimony that passes what is called the gatekeeper function for the judge, you've got to do it. And you may, looking at this, say, what the heck are we talking about? But that's the judge's job.
I got to say, but you know what? There's a tipping point. I've always liked Dr. Bodden. It's not his fault. He came up with the theory. He's a paid guy. He came in to be a paid expert. But I think there's a tipping point where you piss off jurors who've seen that video, who've seen the video of the dad abusing that child just days before he died. And then to hear an expert say sudden unexplained death in children, I think it almost does more harm than good. But that's just me. It's just a personal thing. Maybe some jurors will buy it. How about we meet again when we get a verdict from this jury? What do you want to lay some odds tonight?
Yeah, why don't we do that? You can book me right now, and you don't have to pay your booker.
Yeah, okay. And you know what? I bet we're going to have a short conversation, and it's going to be like, yeah, that was a quick deliberation. Mark Garagos, love talking to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashleigh. Bye-bye.
All right, coming up next, a missing woman mystery that is now more than 6 weeks old, and a desperate plea from a mother who, get this, has already faced a mother's ultimate heartbreak, the loss of a child. And not just once in her life, but twice. And now her 3rd child is missing? I've got all the details next.
Been searching for. Visit TakeLean.com and get 15% off with promo code TRIM at TakeLean.com.
Danielle Lopez walked out of a convenience store in Vincenttown, New Jersey, about 20 miles east of Philadelphia. That was April 13th, Saturday night, but Danielle has not been seen or heard from since, and that was 13 years. Biggest known lead in her disappearance, her car, was found the same day, about 13 miles away in a state forest. Police say the 2008 blue Hyundai Accent was, and I quote, disabled. Lopez is 37 years old with brown hair and green eyes. She's 5'4". She weighs 135 pounds. And she is all that her grief-stricken mother has left. No one should have to go through what Sue Quackenbush has gone through. While searching for her missing daughter, Danielle, Sue is also grieving the loss of her eldest son to suicide in 2015. And less than a year after that, her younger son, a Marine, died in a car crash after returning safely from a tour in Afghanistan. In a Facebook post, she writes this, and I'm mistaken. This is just a recent disappearance. This just happened on April 13th. She says, I'm asking for prayers from the community as we once again navigate an incredibly painful situation. I appreciate all those who are working tirelessly to find my daughter. Danielle was sweet, creative, and loving. She was a wonderful daughter and a vibrant light in my life. Police are calling Lopez's disappearance suspicious, but for now are saying very little else about leads or possible suspects. If you have any information, you can reach the New Jersey State Police Missing Persons Unit at 609-882-2000. You can also email them at missingpinformation@gov.md. at New Jersey. And, just take a picture. It's so much easier to take a picture of your screen than to try to memorize a big, long audience. Missing P information at New Jersey SP, njsp.gov. And I want to make a mention of something. A lot of people would note that Danielle's mom, talking about her in past tense, is curious, because often that is a clue. Not in this case. Danielle's mom has spoken at length with the police and has mentioned the fact that she spoke about her daughter in past tense because police seem to indicate to her that she will not see her daughter again, which is absolutely heartbreaking. Coming up, take a good look at this face. She deserves it. Family in Indiana, hoping and praying for 13 years that somebody recognizes this young woman and will come forward with news about where she is. Lauren Spierer was a student at Indiana University who vanished one night in 2011, never to be seen again. No clues, no leads, no suspects. What could have happened to Lauren Spierer? A reporter who has kept the story alive for 13 years is joining me next, live.
Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
Lauren Spierer is what they call in the South a tiny little thing. Just 4 feet 11, 90 pounds. But even tiny people do not just vanish. And yet Lauren did. Last time anyone admits seeing her was 4:30 in the morning of June 3rd, 2011, near the campus of Indiana University in Bloomington. Lauren had just finished her sophomore year there. She was studying fashion. She had been drinking that night, a whole bunch. She wasn't wearing her shoes, and she didn't have her phone with her either. And in the almost 13 years that have come and gone since then, the anniversary is next Monday, police and Lauren's family, private investigators, all of them, determined reporters too, have come up with exactly nothing that can explain what happened to Lauren. But no one is giving up, especially my next guest. I want to bring in Sean Cohen. He's an investigative reporter who's been on the story for 13 years. He's written a book about Lauren. It's called College Girl Missing, the true story of how a young woman disappeared in plain sight, which is in bookstores as of today. Sean, thanks so much for being on with me. First, can I just say it is so rare when a reporter stays on a story for 13 years. What is it about Lauren's story that just had you gripped for this long?
I kind of think you have to go back 13 years. I was the hometown investigative reporter for her newspaper in Westchester, New York, and I got a call from her friend saying that she was missing, and we put that up. And a couple days later, I hit the ground in Indiana, and I met the Spieers for the first time as I was digging into the case, and I was uncovering some details about her night, about the drugs that were in play, and that she was out with a guy who wasn't her boyfriend, and her parents, and I hit it off in a very bad way, I would say. They were angry. They wanted the investigation left to the police, but as the investigation went cold, they started talking to me, and then when they went back to New York without her, we continued to stay in touch, and we had developed a really good bond, a strong bond where we talk about each other's lives and also about the case. So I approached them a bunch of years ago, saying that I really wanted to go at this in a much bigger way, and they agreed to open their investigative files to me, and that really got me started.
Well, there's been a lot of back and forth then, because as I understand it, you've been able to discover things that the police didn't know and that the family didn't know. And so for the mutual sharing, it's really working out in terms of finding leads and maybe moving this case forward, isn't it?
Right. I think all these years later, to take a fresh look at everything that was gathered by the private investigators and read it all together and contrast the statements, see how certain persons of interest, their statements evolved. You see a bigger picture of that night, and it's important to tell that story. And so I revisited key players, and for the first time, they decided to open up and share what actually happened. They were very closed off in the early days, and eventually I worked my way back to the last people to see her alive, and confronted them.
Okay, so let's talk about that. I've got a list in front of me, and the names might not mean a lot to viewers, but if you can walk me through the roadmap of these folks. The last people who apparently were seen with Lauren, and it is a bit weird that they're not suspects today, but first is a guy named Corey Rossman. Bit of a rivalry, as I understand it, between Corey and Lauren's boyfriend for her affection. He was apparently seen on video making cell phone calls while Lauren was sort of slumped over drunk on a curb. What's the story about Corey Rossman?
Well, Corey Rossman met Lauren 4 days earlier at the Indy 500. It's like the largest tailgate party of the year. Lauren's boyfriend was out of town, and Corey met her, and they were talking, and there were drugs. And upon leaving there, he told one of her close friends that he was very interested. He wanted to, he was kind of crude in talking about how he wanted to sleep with her. So flash forward to the night she went out partying. She had a choice whether to meet up with her boyfriend, who was reaching out to her, and this guy, Corey Rossman, who was up the street at a pregame. And she decided to go out with him. So, to boil it down, they went out toward the end of the night. She was stumbling, falling, and there were, what I learned from reaching out to former investigators who were involved in the investigation, was that the last sighting of her on video was she was collapsed on a stump, and Corey was standing there making a phone call, 3 a.m. In this crisis moment, he made a phone call. So obviously that became a focus of my reporting, is who did he call?
Yeah, and before I sort of go all the way down the rabbit hole, it's intriguing that Corey doesn't want to talk to you, and that Lauren's boyfriend apparently wants $100,000 to talk. I mean, it just sounds really shady. I hope you and I can stay in touch, because something tells me that with your book and with all the light that you've been able to shine on this, there could be some real movement and some serious questions, and maybe people being brought in for questioning. Can't thank you enough for doing this, Sean Cohen. Thanks for writing the book too, and thanks for being so dogged in your reporting.
Thank you very much.
Again, Sean's book hits shelves today, College Girl Missing, the true story of how a young woman disappeared in plain sight. And Lauren's parents are continuously updating the website, findlauren.com. It's got a lot of pictures, background details, and ways that you can get in contact with them if you have any helpful information. Again, it's findlauren.com. Still to come, we've all done it. We've locked our keys inside the car, and then we've called an expert for help. It's all very embarrassing. But I'll bet you never locked yourself in the car. So how do you suppose a San Diego cop found himself locked in the back seat of his cruiser with a pretty detainee, calling his fellow officers to get him sprung? Oh, you're going to hear the story, because it was all caught on body cam. Emphasis on the body. That's next.
As we embrace the warmth of spring, FH Fur and Lennox invite you to help warm the hearts of those who have bravely served our nation. With every $29 cooling system tune-up, we'll proudly donate the full amount to the Wounded Warrior Project. Our goal is bold, $10,000 in donations to honor our heroes. Call FH Fur, your Lennox premier dealer, at 877-CALL-FUR, or visit FHFur.com to schedule your $29 cooling tune-up and be part of our Spring into Giving campaign. Learn more at FHFur.com.
With Memorial Day savings at the Home Depot, you can give your lawn or garden beds a pop of color and protection. Right now, get a special buy on Scott's Earth Grow Mulch, 5 bags for just $10. Help your soil retain moisture longer with color that lasts up to 12 months. Shop Memorial Day savings for a special buy on Scott's Earth Grow Mulch, 5 bags for just $10 at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers. So we build specially adapted homes at Homes for Our Troops. And thanks to our donors and supporters, this life-changing gift of freedom is provided mortgage-free to these veterans. But we need you to join us, too, in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Childhood cancer it's a long road. It's hard, but St. Jude has gotten us through it. St. Jude is hope that you have a chance at life. And it goes such a long way for every child diagnosed with cancer because everything that's learned is shared all over the world. It's awesome.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Thanks for listening to NewsNation on the go. I'm Marnie Hughes, and this is America's fastest-growing cable news network, delivering fact-based, unbiased news from
Carmela Wallace. I started Live Free 999 to remove the stigma and normalize conversations around mental health and substance abuse. I want to ensure that we never lose another Jared.
Go to livefree999.org to learn more. If you need urgent support, text LF999 to 741-741.
Many of our U.S. veterans and service members face challenges, mental health struggles, housing obstacles, food insecurity, and social isolation, to name just a few. I'm Bob Woodruff. My family and I started the Bob Woodruff Foundation in 2006 after I sustained a life-threatening injury while reporting from Iraq. Our service members had my back that day, and we need to have theirs now more than ever. At our foundation, we invest in solutions, so learn more about our work at bobwoodrufffoundation.org/success.
1 in 4 Americans today are living with a disability. I'm one of them. People with disabilities are extremely talented, resilient problem solvers that have so much to offer. And we've got a trusted ally on our side, an organization we can rely on, Easter Seals. Easter Seals is leading the way to full equity, inclusion, and access to healthcare, employment, and education for people with disabilities, families, and communities. That's my Easter Seals. Make it yours.
Learn more and get involved at easterseals.com.
Out here in the middle of all these acres, it can feel like you're the only person on Earth. And sometimes, that's how it feels when you're going through tough times. Trouble sleeping, your mind racing. So what do? We get help. There are people in our community who are here for us. Sometimes, just talking to someone can make all the difference in the world. Find more information at loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
You're going to cut me off and tell me about it.
It's an app that automatically tracks your spending in real time, lowers your bills, and finds and cancels sneaky subscriptions.
Okay, I'm listening, but how does that help me with my $500?
Easy answer. The app can also help you make a budget that works for your income, and anytime you get close to your spending limits, which it sounds like you do regularly, it alerts you.
Sign me up.
Start the new year off right and download Rocket Money today.
Nothing good ever comes in the back seat of a squad car. And if nobody ever told you that, I am telling you that now. Same thing goes for cops. Anthony Hare was a cop in San Diego, keyword was, when he arrested a woman last August on an outstanding warrant. You can see me smiling here because this is actually a pretty funny story. He was driving her back to HQ when she suggested that they make a little detour. Hamana, hamana. Have a listen.
I can't hear you now. Don't say that right now. No, I said don't say that right now because everything's being recorded right now. What's going on?
Moments after this, Officer Hare's body cam mysteriously went dark. And that's when things got really messy. Officer Hare somehow got himself locked in the back seat of the cruiser with his prisoner. And when he finally noticed that he could not get out, he had to ask somebody to fetch the master key and come and rescue him. And I want you to watch the very cringy moment when he's rescued. All right, sir, step out of the vehicle for me. Officer Hare denied anything happened in the back of the cruiser, but a fairly simple lab test found that there was evidence to the contrary, and he resigned just a couple weeks later. We do have a quick programming note for you as well before we go. We're going to take this show on the road this week. Friday night, we're going to be at CrimeCon in Nashville, where our guests will include John Benet Ramsey's father, John Ramsey, the daughter of the BTK killer, Carrie Rawson, and the parents of Gabby Petito. So make sure you tune in for a very special program on Friday night. Meantime, I'm coming right back here again tomorrow night. You can't get rid of me that fast. Can't get rid of Cuomo either. He's next.
Hello, I'm Chris Cuomo. We are fresh off the day of remembering the sacrifices made for this country. And now we return to the chaos that is consuming it. Closing arguments in the Trump hush money trial came and went today. Now we wait. First, we're waiting for the former president, also known as the defendant in this action, Donald Trump. He's supposed to be speaking about this cessation of the case. When he comes, we'll take a listen. All right. But for now, the obvious question is whether the jury finds Trump guilty of violating